Welcome back. We've been joined now by Barry and Shane McGuigan. Barry, first of all, when did you first hear about Carl?
I saw him for the first time in 2007. He was boxing the EU Championships. I was unaware of it at the time, but he'd moved from flyweight to featherweight, so he jumped straight through bantamweight. He's only 20 years old, and I just thought, this kid can really do it. He's very special. And then I saw him in the semi-final. I think I saw him in the semi-final and the final. And he fought a French kid in the final, and he was pipped, but he was a bit tired. He hadn't been in training camp that long. They sprung it on him at the last moment. So I just thought that I saw serious potential there. And then as time went on, I watched how he got better. And I suppose what really sealed it for me was when he won the Irish Seniors in 2009 with an incredible performance, one of the best fights, they said, in 20, 30 years in the National Stadium, when he beat David Oliver Joyce for the featherweight championships, 2009.
And Shane, I mean, you've been dragged into this bit by bit, but were you sort of following to the amateur scene? Had you heard of Carl?
Well, I actually boxed in a tournament with Carl. We won the Ulster Seniors together.
I got best boxer in the tournament that way.
I was going to go and say that one, but yeah. So was it in 2008? Was it? Yeah, so he was boxing as a featherweight, and I was boxing as a welterweight. So we boxed together, and he definitely stole the show that night. Anyway,
we'll talk about how that relationship has developed. But what was it like for you, suddenly with Barry McGuigan knocking on your door?
It was strange. I remember he phoned me the first. Well, he had spoke to me a couple of times before, and we'd met on a few previous occasions. But I was actually at a training camp in the University of Ulster in Jordanstown with the Irish squad, and I had a phone call from Barry, and I was like shocked the first time he was speaking to me, and he asked me was I interested in turning over, and I had been. I was thinking about it for a while, and I let it out that I wanted to turn pro, and a few other guys got in touch and stuff, but Barry it was pretty much an easy choice in the end. He was the man to go with.
And Barry, was that something you wanted to do, to help someone else sort of follow in your footsteps in a way?
Alex, I had been asked 100 times, and that's no exaggeration, will you manage me, will you promote me, will you get involved with me as a fighter? And I always politely turned them down because I just didn't see what I saw in this fella. And I suppose the fact that I'm an adopted Belfast boy, as such, and there was so much in common with him, and then I discovered later that he was in a mixed relationship like I had been when I turned professional, and later married, and he's going to get married later this year. So and that was a sort of serendipitous moment. I wasn't aware of that, and that was a surprise to me too. But the more I got to know him, the more I realised that he's a pretty unique young kid.
And Barry, I read an article the other day where it was saying that when Shane was boxing and you spent any time in the corner, instead of necessarily offering a tactical advice when he came back, you'd be asking, did the other guy hit quite hard? Can you get too close in a way?
No, I think that actually is better, because if I didn't care, I wouldn't ask those questions. You want to know your fighter's comfortable. That's the most important thing. Forget about everything else. If your fighter's not comfortable, if he's not ready, if he's not on the ball, all the rest of it just falls down. This is where it all starts and ends. And so being passionate about your fighter and knowing that he's feeling comfortable, knowing that he hasn't been hurt is important. Any Egypt can look at a fella and when he's knocked to the floor know that he's been hurt. But you also want to know, with fighters, it's just little really, really precise incremental detail, like being able to stay in punching distance just a little bit longer to make you land with that counter punch. If the guy's hitting you hard, chances are you'll be a bit more tentative. So it's important, and I'm very I try not to be sometimes, but I'm very involved in all of it. Shane does all of the training these days. I just sort of stand back and make the occasional comment, and maybe more than just one or two. But it's good. It's all part of it. We're a very strong team here.
And detail in training, that's where you come in. Having been a fighter yourself, where was the point of transition for you to becoming a trainer?
Well, I just had enough of boxing, to be honest. So I went out and tried to start a new career, and that was personal training. And in the process, I was learning my craft, and I was thinking about having a comeback fight. And Carl, it was about 3 or 4 fights in, wasn't he, into his professional career. I started training alongside him, and then I just started doing some pad work with him and going to the sparring and just escalated from there, really.
And we've spoken about this already, Carl, but how beneficial is it for you having someone who's new, fresh, wants to explore sort of modern techniques, diet, etc.?
I think it's really important. I think that I've said it before that the boxing's a game full of old school mentality and dinosaurs, whatever you want to call it. But Shane's one of the new age guys, and you need to improve all the time. Other sports are doing it, so why should boxing not doing it? And this guy really knows his stuff. I'm not just saying that because he's sitting beside me, but he's clued in. He really is. But
that's what Carl says is exactly right. Where the game has moved on from when I was around 25, 30 years ago, is that it's all about diet, and it's all about getting a bigger athlete into the weight than you could do all those years ago. If I'd had his diet in 1984, 85, 83, 84, 85, I would have been a super bantamweight, although there was no super bantamweight division at that time. Sure. I would have been a bigger athlete and have been stronger. That's the difference between the game then and the game now. And of course, it's still a skill-based sport. The fact that he has both the nutritional and dietary advice, the strength and the boxing knowledge, I think is the perfect combination.
The full package. When was the point for you that you were standing in that corner and you think, do you know what? Actually, I can do this. I'm a trainer. I'm a bona fide trainer.
Well, I think it came when I was training for the Robbie Turley fight, and in that fight, I mean, it was the first time he had somebody flinging punches back at him, and he found himself in a spot of bother, and in that fight he was, looking out. I mean, because I'd trained him for the 6 to 8 weeks on the build up to the fight. He'd been listening to me every time he was sparring, listening to the advice I was giving him, and he found himself a little bit unstuck in that fight. Was looking for another voice, and that was mine. And I was sitting there ringside, and not actually being able to voice my opinions in the corner. So straight after that fight, I went up to Scotland and got my seconds license and coaching a seconds license. And just started sitting there listening to Jerry's story, learning the way how calm he is in the corner, and taking the knowledge from him, and now he wants me to be his main person in the corner. So every fight is different as well. I mean, I won't be the best coach for everybody. I mean, Carl and I have a good bond, and we've got a good relationship, and we understand each other. But that's not to say that I would have that relationship and understanding with other fighters.
And we've seen that tested, haven't we, in the Molitor and then the Martinez fights. How much confidence does that give you going forward?
It gives me so much confidence. I think especially after the Kiko Martinez fight, it was a really tough fight. I think that was the best Kiko Martinez we'd ever seen. And
there was a lot of pressure, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was so much pressure, and I heard all this stuff of just be careful the first 3 rounds and he'll slow down. But I'm 8 rounds in and he's still coming at me head on.
Absolutely.
Thinking, when's this guy going to stop? But stuff like that, and Shane, the advice Shane was giving me in the corner, and the tactics worked a treat, and we boxed him at the start, outboxed him at the start, and then outfought him at the end, and we said we'd do it, and we done it.
Yeah, it was an intense fight to watch, there's no doubt about that. And also the build-up, I guess for all 3 of you, that was a real taste of what's just around the corner, because that had everything, didn't it, in terms of the build-up and the actual fight, in terms of proper World Championship intensity.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was you get that kind of atmosphere in Belfast. People, they show up like it's a world title fight every time. So, for the Martinez fight, they knew him in Belfast. They knew him in Ireland and in Belfast. I mean, he fought there in his previous fight against Dougie Curran, and before that, he'd knocked out Bernard Dunn for the European title. So he was a big name, and everyone knew he was dangerous. So it just built the atmosphere, really.
And Barry, talking of that atmosphere, that must have brought back memories for you.
Definitely a real flashback for me, because I can see, I can feel it. It's palpable. It gets, you know, just builds up every time from the weigh-in. We had about 500-600 people at the weigh-in. The atmosphere was really electric, and you could. I mean, we came up the back stairs. Do you remember in the lift? And we walked because we just couldn't get up. There was that many people.
The lift was broke as well. Everyone was trying to get into it.
There were so many people up there. We said 500 or 600. It was at least that. And when he showed his face, like, they nearly lifted the roof off. And so it really brought back memories to me. You know, these people are getting very excited about the whole thing, and it was great. He's a lovely kid. He's confident, but not arrogant, and that's a lovely quality to have. He's got the mix right, and the boxing fans in Belfast, they really are discerning, clever boxing fans, and they know that this kid has got it. So they're going to come out and support him, and it's, well, you guys are going to find out all about it when we roll around in October. It's going to be fantastic.
And you know, with home advantage in Belfast, and that support deserves a big occasion, don't they? But would you be willing to travel if you have to?
Absolutely. We must say this at the beginning. For example, if we cast our mind back to when I boxed all those years ago, Pedrosa simply would not come to Belfast. He would come to London, but he wouldn't come to Belfast. And all that we tried, and we bent over backwards, but he would not do it. We raised the money and everything else, he wouldn't do it. So we had to accept the fight in London. So I'm not saying that that's not out of the question. There's always the chance, and Frank has just done a deal with the Copper Box, which would be a phenomenal arena. It's a 7,000 to 9,000 seater. We're already working with the Barry McGuigan Boxing Academy down in the boroughs. We've got a couple of celebratory events in the Copper Box, so it's you know, that could be a natural home for us, and it could be a natural second home for Carl. We would rather it be in Belfast, but you know, we've got to be willing to be flexible to get that big title fight.
Okay, final question to all three. We'll start with Shane. When, I'm not going to say if, when he wins a world title, how will that make you feel?
I'll be ecstatic. I mean,
you'd probably cry, will you?
Barry will. Dad probably will. No, I mean, I think it will be a combined effort from the two of us, and I'd say one of the youngest combined ages to win a world title. So I think we might make a bit of history there, but no, it'll make me over the moon.
Barry, what would that mean to you?
Oh, it'd be incredible. I mean, I'm convinced this kid will win the world title, and what's more, I think he can win 2 world titles. I think he can go up the weights as well, and it would be an incredible achievement. These two guys they really are an example. He's 24, Carl's 26, and they're doing the groundbreaking stuff. It's been hard work, but I'm hoping that in the next 3 fights that will come to fruition, and he will win a world title. I'm convinced of it.
And Carl, it's all down to you now. Yeah. Have you dreamed about that moment?
I've dreamed about it since it was a kid. I've spoke about it before, and I know we're knocking on the door. We're very, very close, and you know, I don't know. I know I'll be boxing for a world title one day, and sooner rather than later. Don't know who it'll be against, but whoever it is, you know, there's no way I'm going to let them beat me. No way at all.
And then back to the cafe for a big pavlova.
Yeah, I might have 2 if I win a world title.
Gents, we're glad to be along for the ride. Good luck.